Over the next few weeks, we will look at what happened after the resurrection, looking at the appearances of Jesus, what it was that Jesus said and did, and what the church did in between the resurrection of Passover time and the festival of Pentecost 5 weeks later. To understand the evidence, we are going to look at the documents that we rely on to give us a record of the resurrection. The meaning of the word Bible is books. And so the Bible is not a book, but it's a library of different types of books. In the New Testament, we have 27 books divided into a number of sections. First, we have the Gospel and Acts. Then comes letters from St. Paul to churches and individuals. Third, a section which comprises of one book, Hebrews, which is unlike other letters and was probably written to the early Christian Samaritans who were genetically Hebrews and part of the descendants of Abraham, but were not Jews from Judea. After this comes a variety of letters written by authors other than St. Paul. And finally, another book that is in a section all of its own, Revelation to John. But of course, the way the books are ordered in our New Testament is not the same as the order in which they were written. So the first book to be written was by James, who was not the brother of John, but was regarded as the brother of Jesus, and this was the James who became the leader of the church at Jerusalem. James, the brother of John, was put to death by the sword on the instructions of the same King Herod that had ordered John the Baptist's execution. The four Gospels, as we have them in our Bible, are the final editions. We know that Paul took Mark with him on his missionary journeys, and later on he was joined by Luke, and certainly the Gospels of Matthew, Mark and Luke are very similar. Mark is regarded as the earliest. It is both the shortest and yet often the most detailed in the actual stories themselves. Luke tells the story of Jesus in ways that are more understandable to Gentiles, and Matthew gears the story towards Jewish disciples. John is altogether different in the account and is much more focused on what Jesus did in and around Jerusalem and Judea. And again, what we have is the final edition, and it looks as if John once ended at the end of chapter 20, but then we have a second ending at the close of chapter 21. So, although we can be fairly sure about the order of Mark, Luke and Matthew, John, which is usually considered to be the last of the Gospels to be written, could have been started maybe even earlier than Mark and developed over time into a late final edition. There's lots in John that make an early edition a possibility. Acts is a follow-up to Luke. It is Gospel of Luke 2, as it were, and was written by Luke, the same author as the Gospel. So the letter of James was written first, then came Galatians, then the letters to Thessalonica and Corinth. All of these were probably written between 49 and 55 AD, so that's just 20 or 25 years after the resurrection. So there was plenty of witnesses who were still alive and kicking. So what do we find out in these earliest Christian writings about the resurrection? Here are some references for you to look up yourself, asking, what do these verses tell us about the resurrection of Jesus?